In a world humming with change, curriculum has to prepare learners for uncertainty. That's where 21st century skills, or more helpfully, durable skills come in: critical thinking, collaboration, communication, creativity, adaptability, ethical reasoning, and digital fluency. These aren't add-ons, they have to be embedded in tasks. You don't teach collaboration with a poster. You do it with structured group roles, taught protocols for discussion, reflective tools like collaboration rubrics, and tasks that actually require interdependence. You don't teach creativity by telling students to be creative. You give constraints, examples, divergent thinking routines, and safe spaces for iteration. Ethical reasoning can be brought to bear in science, bioethics, computer science, algorithmic bias, business, stakeholder impacts, and so on. Curricula that surface these dimensions help learners sense make in complex systems. Speaking of complex systems, interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary curriculum can be transformative. Humans don't encounter separate subject periods outside school the way we often design them. Environmental science, entrepreneurship, design thinking, and global studies are natural connectors. A school might design a studio model where students tackle design challenges like reduce food waste in our city over 6 weeks, drawing from math, science, humanities, and art, guided by mentors from community organizations. Assessment rubrics cross disciplines: problem definition, research quality, feasibility, impact, communication. At the same time, you don't want to lose disciplinary integrity. Students still need the structures of good evidence in history, the norms of proof in math, the methods of science. The trick is to weave both identity and integration. Online and hybrid learning adds more considerations. Presence matters: cognitive, social, and teaching presence. The Community of Inquiry framework suggests you design for clear structure and guidance, opportunities for meaning-making, and real human connection. Chunk content into digestible segments, use multimedia intentionally, build in low-stakes practice with feedback, and design discussion prompts that require synthesis and application, not just opinion. Accessibility is crucial. Transcripts, captions, alt text, and navigation that doesn't trap users. In asynchronous spaces, deadlines and pacing guides keep momentum. In synchronous sessions, active learning keeps attention. Resist the urge to upload lectures and call it a day. The pedagogy needs to live online too. Let's consider how curriculum development rolls out over time. A common sequence looks like this: needs analysis, goal setting, design, development of materials, pilot testing, implementation, evaluation, and revision. Needs analysis isn't just test scores. It's community priorities, labor market data, learner aspirations, and resource realities. You might use the CIPP model: context, input, process, product, to evaluate. Context asks, what needs and assets exist? Input considers resources and strategies. Process monitors implementation fidelity. Product evaluates outcomes. If you treat evaluation as a one-time autopsy, you miss the chance to learn. Better to collect regular feedback, run short cycles of inquiry, and course correct. There are practical roadblocks. Scheduling can fragment learning into periods that are too short for deep work. Block scheduling or flexible time allocations can help, but they demand careful planning to avoid cognitive overload. Facilities can constrain possibilities. A makerspace or lab opens new doors, but you can also do design challenges with cardboard and curiosity. Budget matters. OER and community partnerships can stretch resources. Policy can support or stifle. A visionary principal or department chair who protects time for collaboration is a gift. And fatigue is real. Ask any teacher who has lived through initiative churn. So pace the work, prioritize a few high-leverage changes, and celebrate wins. Now, let's tackle something messier: decolonizing and localizing curriculum. This involves questioning whose knowledge is presented as universal, whose stories are told, and how power shapes what counts as canonical. It doesn't mean discarding rigorous knowledge. It means expanding the canon, contextualizing it, and acknowledging multiple ways of knowing. In science, that might include histories of discovery that credit marginalized contributors, attention to ethics and impacts on communities, and examples of indigenous ecological knowledge alongside modern ecology, with critical comparison. In literature, it might broaden voices and analyze translation, power, and representation. Localizing connects content to place, local history, ecosystems, industries, and cultural practices. Students might curate an oral history project with elders or map biodiversity in a neighborhood, turning curriculum into community work. Competency frameworks and micro-credentials are gaining traction. They can offer transparency and flexibility. Learners earn badges that signify discrete competencies, sometimes stacking into larger credentials. In workplace and vocational settings, this can map cleanly to job roles. The caution is to avoid atomizing learning into tiny checkboxes that lose the bigger picture. Good competency-based curriculum balances granular skills with integrative performances that require synthesis. A coding badge for loops is helpful, but a project that builds an app for a local need ties loops to problem-solving, user empathy, and iteration. If you're wondering about evidence that curriculum design moves the needle, look for indicators beyond test scores. Observe classrooms for student talk, cognitive demand, and independence. Review student work for depth, originality, and transfer. Ask students and families about relevance and engagement. Track long-term outcomes where possible: persistence, further study, job placement, civic participation. When a curriculum makes school feel more like a place of meaning, you'll hear it in the way students talk about their work and see it in the way they tackle new challenges. Sometimes, helpful heuristics emerge from practitioners. One is the less, better mantra. Cut a third of your content, invest that time in sense-making, practice, and feedback. Another is, every day, every student produces evidence of thinking, which pushes you to design exit tickets, quick writes, or concept maps daily. A third is, nothing about us without us, for equity work, meaning design with the communities you serve. And one more. Assess what you value what you assess. If you say creativity matters, your curriculum should include tasks and criteria for it, not merely lip service. Let's circle back to emotions and relationships, because they're not fluff, they're the engine. Social-emotional learning integrates with academic curriculum when you teach norms for collaboration, explicitly build growth mindsets grounded in evidence. Here's how your neural pathways strengthen through practice, and normalize productive struggle. Feedback, if it's specific and focused on the task rather than the person, accelerates learning. A classroom climate of trust invites risk-taking. Safety and belonging aren't extras, they're prerequisites. Design routines that build community, opening circles, gallery walks, peer critique protocols, so that the social architecture supports the intellectual work. In many places, language and literacy across the curriculum is crucial. Every subject has its disciplinary literacy: how historians source and corroborate, how scientists argue from evidence, how mathematicians represent and reason, how artists critique and iterate. Embed those practices as outcomes and teach the moves explicitly. Provide text sets at different levels, teach vocabulary in context, and ask students to write and speak like practitioners. At the same time, numeracy across the curriculum matters too: interpreting graphs, estimating, reasoning with data. A health class that examines statistical claims about nutrition or a social studies class that analyzes demographic trends shows students that numbers are part of civic reasoning. One topic that sneaks up on curriculum design is academic integrity and AI. As tools get more capable, your curriculum can either become a contest of cat and mouse detection, or it can evolve to emphasize process, oral defense, iterative drafts, and authentic tasks less amenable to hollow shortcuts. You can teach students to use tools ethically, brainstorming, outlining, debugging code, checking understanding, while requiring citations and reflective logs of their process. The point is to design for learning that an algorithm can support but not replace, and to develop students' judgment in a tool-rich world. Let's not forget the teacher's workload. Great curriculum is only great if it's livable. Build reusable structures, banks of tasks and resources, and shared rubrics. Agree on a few common protocols so planning is lighter. Design assessments that give you bang for your buck. A single rich task can assess multiple outcomes. Use peer and self-assessment to multiply feedback without multiplying teacher hours, and train students in how to give and use feedback well. And give permission to adapt. Curriculum should be principled but elastic, with core outcomes and assessments stable, while texts, contexts, and activities adapt to your learners. Evaluation and improvement can be energizing when it's evidence-informed and humane. During or after a unit, gather students for a debrief. What helped you learn? Where did we lose you? What would you change? Review a sample of work at each performance level and ask what instruction produced it. Compare across sections and teachers, look for patterns. If a particular concept consistently trips students, redesign the experience, not just the explanation. Maybe a simulation or manipulative would surface the underlying model better than a lecture. Share those insights across the team. Over time, this builds institutional memory so you're not reinventing the wheel every year. There's also a role for mentorship and leadership pathways in curriculum work. New teachers can be paired with curriculum leads who model the design process and the routines of reflection. Students can be invited to serve on curriculum councils or act as advisors for course redesigns, especially in secondary and higher ed contexts. Community partners can serve as clients or audiences in capstones, providing feedback and stakes. This ecosystem view treats curriculum as the bridge between school and the wider world, not a moat. It's worth talking about failure, because good curriculum invites safe failure. Iteration is the heart of creative and scientific work. A curriculum that gives one-shot, high-stakes tasks without feedback teaches risk aversion. One that builds cycles, draft, feedback, revise, teaches resilience and craft. You can add reflective prompts. What did you try? What did you learn? What will you change next time? Over the span of a course, track growth by revisiting earlier work and making the progress visible. Portfolios shine here. Students see their trajectory and can narrate it.